The massive ship appeared without warning, materializing above Earth's atmosphere like a shimmering cloud of stardust. On Earth, military bases worldwide went into high alert, their radar systems tracking the strange vessel that defied all known laws of physics. Inside the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, world leaders gathered to address this unprecedented situation. The alien ship had made no hostile moves, but its mere presence sent waves of anxiety through the human population. "They're broadcasting a message," announced General Peters, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of multiple screens. "It's being transmitted in over 50 human languages simultaneously." The message was simple. "We are the Mists. We come in peace. We request a meeting with your leaders." The name suited them perfectly. When their delegation finally emerged from their ship, they appeared as semi-transparent, floating entities that shimmed with an inner light. Their bodies seemed to shift and flow like morning fog, yet maintained humanoid shapes. Their leader, who called herself Dawn, was slightly taller than the others and had a distinct silver-blue glow. She moved with grace that seemed impossible for a being made of what looked like living mist. The Earth's delegation, led by Ambassador Thomas, waited on the specially prepared meeting ground in Geneva. Security teams stood ready, though everyone knew they would be useless if these beings proved hostile. "We have searched the galaxy for others like us," Dawn's voice echoed in their minds. "We found many species, but none survived first contact. You are the first to even attempt communication." Ambassador Thomas stepped forward. "What happened to the others?" Dawn's form rippled with what seemed like sadness. "They died. Our very presence is fatal to most life forms. Our touch causes instant cellular breakdown. We have lived in isolation for millennia because of this curse." The human delegation exchanged worried glances. Dr. Wilson, the chief scientist present, spoke up. "Yet we're still alive, speaking with you now." "Yes," Dawn replied. "Your species shows remarkable resilience. You survive in our presence, though direct contact would still be fatal. This is why we chose to reveal ourselves to you. You are different." As if fate chose that moment to prove Dawn's warning, a young aide stumbled forward, accidentally passing through the misty edge of one of Dawn's companions. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The aide's body simply stopped. Every cell in his body simultaneously ceased functioning. He was dead before he hit the ground. Chaos erupted. Security teams rushed forward, diplomats scrambled backward, and several people screamed. The mists quickly withdrew, their forms contracting to minimize any chance of accidental contact. "We deeply regret this," Dawn's voice carried genuine sorrow. "This is why we must maintain strict protocols for all future interactions." Despite the tragedy, Ambassador Thomas made a crucial decision. Instead of ending the meeting, he raised his hands for calm. "This was an accident," he declared. "We were warned. This death, while tragic, proves the honesty of our visitors. They told us the truth about their nature immediately." Dawn's form brightened slightly. "You show wisdom, Ambassador. Most species would have attacked us by now, blamed us for what we cannot control. Your restraint is remarkable." The meeting continued under strictly controlled conditions. The Mists shared their story, how they evolved on a world of energy storms and radiation, becoming beings of semi-solid energy rather than matter. They spoke of their loneliness, their desire to find others they could communicate with, and their hope that humanity might help them find a way to interact safely with other life forms. As the first contact meeting concluded, both sides agreed to establish formal diplomatic relations, with strict safety protocols in place. Nobody realized they were witnessing the beginning of humanity's most challenging and remarkable alliance. Dawn lingered behind as her delegation prepared to return to their ship. "Your species is unique, Ambassador Thomas. You face death and respond with curiosity rather than fear. Perhaps that is why you survived our presence when all others failed." As the mists departed, leaving the humans to deal with the aftermath of this historic and tragic day. Nobody could have predicted how one human's unique gift would soon change everything. But that story was yet to come, and for now, humanity had to learn to live with neighbors who could kill with a single touch. 3 months after first contact, the Earth-Mist Relations Committee worked tirelessly to establish safe interaction protocols. Every meeting room now had laser barriers marking safe distances, and all human personnel wore proximity alarms. No one wanted another death like the one during first contact. Jack Miller was the newest human diplomat assigned to the committee. Unlike his more experienced colleagues, he approached his duties with almost reckless enthusiasm. His superiors often had to remind him about safety protocols, though he never actually broke them. "The mists aren't our enemies," he would say during briefings. "They're trapped in their own isolation. Imagine never being able to touch another living thing." On this particular day, Jack was reviewing trade proposals in the designated human section of the joint facility. The mists occupied the other half, separated by energy fields and warning systems. Dawn, the mist leader, often worked in the corresponding chamber across from him. Then the unthinkable happened. A minor earthquake, common in the region, shook the building. The backup generators failed. For 3 crucial seconds, all safety barriers went down. Jack, who had been standing near the boundary, lost his balance. Dawn, who had been reviewing documents on her side, instinctively reached out to help. Their forms intersected. Everyone in the room froze in horror. Security personnel reached for weapons. Other mists pulled back in shock. Dawn herself recoiled, expecting the now familiar sight of cellular collapse. But Jack didn't die. He stumbled, caught himself, and straightened up. It took him several seconds to realize what had happened. When he did, his eyes widened. "I'm alive." He patted himself down, checking for damage. "How am I alive?" Dawn's misty form pulsed with confusion and surprise. "This is impossible. No living being has ever survived direct contact with our essence. Not in all our recorded history." The room erupted into controlled chaos. Medical teams rushed in, wearing protective suits. Scientists began taking readings. Security personnel established a wider perimeter, unsure what this development meant. Dr. Adams, the lead human scientist, ran preliminary scans on Jack. His cellular structure is completely intact. There's no sign of the breakdown we've observed in other cases. This is unprecedented. Dawn moved closer, though still maintaining a safe distance from others. "We must understand this. Your species already showed unusual resistance by surviving our presence. But this is beyond anything we imagined possible." Jack stood in the middle of it all, surrounded by medical equipment and curious stares from both species. "I feel fine," he insisted. "A little tingly maybe, but otherwise normal." The next few hours were a blur of tests, questions, and examinations. Jack's blood was drawn, his tissue samples analyzed, and his entire genetic code mapped. Both human and mist scientists worked together, trying to understand this miracle. "There's something unique about his cellular structure," Dr. Adams announced after initial tests. "A protein configuration we've never seen before. It seems to neutralize the mist's deadly effect." Dawn's form brightened with excitement. "In all our travels, we never dared hope. Could this be the key to ending our isolation?" Jack suddenly found himself the center of attention for both species. From being a minor diplomat, he had become the most important human in the facility. The one human who could survive a mist's touch. "I want to help," he told Dawn later that day, after most of the excitement had died down. "If there's something in my biology that can help your people interact safely with others, I'm willing to participate in whatever research is needed." Dawn's form shimmered with what Jack was learning to recognize as emotion. "You would do this, even after knowing how dangerous we are." "You're not dangerous," Jack replied firmly. "You're just different, and maybe now we can find a way to bridge that difference." As the day ended, both species knew everything had changed. The impossible had happened. A human had survived a mist's touch, and with that survival came hope for both civilizations. What no one realized yet was that this miracle would also bring new dangers, as not everyone would welcome this breakthrough. In the high-security laboratory beneath the Joint Earth-Mist facility, Dr. Adams peered through an advanced microscope, studying Jack's cells for the 1000th time. After 2 weeks of intensive research, the unique protein structure in his cellular makeup still held many mysteries. "Look at this," she gestured to Dawn, who hovered nearby. On the screen, Jack's cells glowed with an unusual blue-green tint under special lighting. The protein creates a kind of biological force field. When your energy interacts with it, instead of causing breakdown, it creates a harmless reaction. Jack sat on a nearby examination table, reading through the latest test results. "So basically, I'm immune to their touch because my cells have a built-in shield." "More like a transformer," Dr. Adams corrected. "It doesn't just block the energy. It converts it into something your cells can handle. We've never seen anything like it." Dawn moved closer to the display, her misty form rippling with interest. "In all our travels, we never imagined such an adaptation was possible. But why this human? Why Jack?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Reed, a geneticist who had been analyzing Jack's family history, burst into the lab waving a tablet. "I found something." Jack's great-grandparents on both sides worked in early nuclear research facilities. 3 generations of low-level radiation exposure created a unique mutation. The implications hit everyone at once. This wasn't just random chance. It was evolution in action. "Human adaptability," Dawn whispered, her form brightening. "Your species evolved a defense against us before you even knew we existed." Jack processed this information slowly. "So my family's exposure to radiation accidentally created protection against alien death touches. That's actually pretty cool." But the excitement of discovery soon gave way to more complex questions. Dr. Adams found that the protein structure was incredibly complex, unlike anything in human medical databases. Replicating it would be far from simple. "We can map it," she explained to a room full of human and mist scientists. "But synthesizing it, that's like trying to build a quantum computer with stone tools. We don't have the technology." Dawn's form darkened slightly. "My people have advanced biological engineering capabilities. Perhaps together." "No," interrupted Director Wells, entering the lab with a stern expression. "The protein structure is classified as a national security asset. All research must remain under Earth authority." The room temperature seemed to drop. The mists present drew back slightly, their forms contracting in what Jack had learned to recognize as displeasure. "Director," Jack stood up. "With respect, this discovery could help both our species. The mists have been isolated for millennia because of their touch. If we can synthesize this protein, if we can synthesize it," Wells cut in, "we'll have the only known defense against their most dangerous attribute. That's not something we can share without careful consideration." Dawn moved forward, her usually calm voice carrying an edge. "We came to Earth in peace, sharing all our knowledge freely. We've helped advance your technology by decades, and now you would keep this discovery to yourselves." The tension in the room grew thick. Human security personnel shifted uncomfortably. The mist's forms began to pulse with agitation. Jack looked between both groups, seeing years of potential cooperation threatening to unravel. Then he noticed something on Dr. Adams' screen, a pattern in his cellular structure that nobody had mentioned yet. "Wait," he said, pointing to the display. "What's that?" Dr. Adams zoomed in on the area he indicated. Her eyes widened. That's not part of the protective protein. That's something else entirely." Dawn moved closer to look, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding the political tension. "Those patterns, they're similar to our own cellular structure." The revelation hung in the air. The protein wasn't just a shield. It was something more. Something that suggested humans and mists might be more connected than anyone had imagined. As the implications sank in, Jack realized they'd just stumbled onto something far bigger than diplomatic relations or national security. This wasn't just about protection from the Mist's touch anymore. It was about understanding what connected their species in the first place. The discovery of similarities between Jack's unique cells and Mist biology sparked a firestorm in both human and Mist political circles. The joint facility buzzed with increased activity as politicians and military leaders from both sides arrived for emergency meetings. Jack found himself pulled from one debriefing to another. In a sealed conference room, Earth's Security Council grilled him for hours. "You're telling us you've been meeting privately with the Mist leader." General Richards leaned forward, his face hard. "Without authorization." "Dawn and I have been working together on understanding the protein structure," Jack replied, keeping his voice steady. "It's all been documented in my reports." "Your reports mention official meetings," the general countered, "not private conversations." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as security teams rushed through the corridors. Through the conference room's windows, Jack saw several Mist forms moving rapidly, their usually calm glow now pulsing with angry red energy. Director Wells burst into the room. "We have a situation. A group calling themselves Pure Mist has declared that human immunity to their touch is an abomination. They're demanding we cease all research immediately." On the main screen, a Mist form appeared, its color a deep, threatening crimson. "We are the essence of death itself. It is our nature, our purpose. These humans seek to deny our very being. We cannot allow this corruption of our species to continue." Jack rushed to the research lab, finding Dawn trying to calm several agitated Mist scientists. Her form rippled with distress. "My own people fear change so much," she said as Jack entered. "They've lived so long believing their touch must bring death, they cannot accept an alternative." "What about the human extremists?" Dr. Adams looked up from her computer. "They're just as bad. Look at these messages." The screen showed multiple threats from human groups demanding the protein research be weaponized. They wanted to use it to create weapons against the Mists, turning their deadly touch back against them. Jack ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "Everything we've discovered points to our species being connected somehow. Why can't they see that?" A soft alert chimed. Dawn moved to check the message, her form darkening. "The Pure Mist group has supporters in our government. They're calling for an immediate end to all Earth-Mist relations. And Earth's military wants to put me in protective custody," Jack added grimly. "They're calling me a strategic asset now, not a person." Dawn's form shifted closer to Jack, careful not to touch anyone else. "We need to show them the truth about what we've discovered. The protein isn't just protection against our touch. It's evidence of a connection between our species that goes back further than either of us imagined." Dr. Adams spoke up from her station. "The latest test results support that theory. The protein structure isn't random. It's like a key fitting into a lock, as if human biology evolved specifically to interact with Mist energy." "Which means what?" Jack asked, though he was beginning to understand. "It means," Dawn replied, her form brightening slightly, "that perhaps our species were meant to meet. That this isn't about immunity or weapons or power. It's about completion." A heavy bang echoed through the facility. Security alerts flashed across all screens. Both human and Mist extremist groups were attempting to breach the facility's defenses. "We're out of time," Jack said, looking at Dawn. "We need to make a decision. Do we let them shut this down, or do we show them what we've really discovered?" Dawn's form pulsed with determination. "We show them. Whatever the cost, they need to understand that this is bigger than their fears." As alarms continued to blare and security forces mobilized, Jack and Dawn prepared to face both their species' worst fears. The protein wasn't just about survival anymore. It had become a symbol of something far more important: the possibility that humans and Mists were always meant to find each other. They just had to survive long enough to prove it. The research facility's lockdown entered its third day. Outside, Both human and mist protesters clashed with security forces. Inside, Jack paced the secure lab while Dawn's form hovered near the main computer terminal. "Someone leaked our initial findings," Dr. Adams announced, scrolling through data on her screen. But they only released half the information, the part about the protein being a potential weapon. Red warning lights suddenly flashed through the lab. The ventilation system shut down with a grinding noise. Emergency seals activated, trapping them inside. This isn't a malfunction, Jack realized, rushing to check the sealed doors. Someone's trying to trap us in here. Dawn's form shifted rapidly, scanning the room. The air recyclers are offline. You humans have approximately 15 minutes of breathable air remaining. Dr. Adams frantically worked at her terminal. All systems are locked out. This was planned. They waited until the night shift when security would be minimal. Through the lab's reinforced windows, they spotted several shadowy figures moving in the darkened corridor. Some were human, wearing advanced protective suits. Others were mists, their forms darker than normal. "They're working together," Jack said in disbelief. "Extremists from both sides." Dawn moved to the ventilation system, her misty form seeping into the machinery. "I can try to restart the airflow, but they've damaged the main controls." Jack grabbed a tablet, quickly accessing the facility's emergency protocols. "There's a manual override, but it's in the maintenance tunnel beneath the lab, which we can't reach because we're locked in," Dr. Adams added grimly. The air grew thinner. Jack checked his tablet again, looking for options. Then he noticed something odd in the security logs. "The maintenance tunnel," he said suddenly. "It's not sealed. They forgot about the access panel under the main console." Dawn withdrew from the ventilation system, "because they assumed we wouldn't risk using it. The tunnel is too narrow for humans to wear protective suits. Any mists in there would cause instant death." "Not to me," Jack said quietly. The implications hung in the increasingly thin air. Jack could survive mist contact, but the tunnel would be filled with them. One touch was survivable, but sustained exposure. "No," Dr. Adams protested. "We don't know if your immunity has limits. Extended contact could still kill you." Dawn moved closer to Jack. "She's right. It's too dangerous. We'll find another way." In 10 minutes, Jack was already moving to the console. "They want to destroy everything we've discovered about the connection between our species. We can't let that happen." He pulled up the access panel, revealing the narrow maintenance tunnel below. The space was dark, barely wide enough to crawl through. Sensor readings showed at least 3 mist forms moving inside. "Jack," Dawn's voice was soft, "if you die attempting this, then we'll never know if humans and mists were meant to help each other," he finished. "But if I don't try, we all die anyway." Sometimes the only way to prove something is possible is to do the impossible. Without waiting for more protests, Jack lowered himself into the tunnel. The moment he entered, he felt the distinctive tingle of mist contact all over his skin. His unique protein structure activated, creating the familiar biological shield, but he'd never tested it for more than a few seconds of contact. The mist forms in the tunnel noticed him immediately. They surged toward him, their touch meant to kill. Instead, Jack felt only an intense tingling sensation as he crawled through them. "The override is 6 meters ahead," Dawn's voice guided him through his earpiece. "But your vital signs are fluctuating. The prolonged exposure is affecting you." Jack's vision blurred. His muscles trembled. The protein shield was holding, but his body was struggling to maintain it. Just a few more meters. He reached the override panel as his strength began to fail. With shaking hands, he pulled the emergency lever. The ventilation system roared back to life. As consciousness faded, Jack smiled. He'd proven something important today. Sometimes survival wasn't about immunity or strength. Sometimes it was about believing in something bigger than yourself. Jack woke up in the facility's medical bay 3 days later. His body tingled all over, but he was alive. Through the observation window, he saw Dawn's familiar form speaking with Dr. Adams and a group of scientists. The prolonged mist exposure triggered something unexpected. Dr. Adams explained when she noticed he was awake. Your protein structure didn't just protect you. It evolved. Don moved closer to his bed. Your cellular structure has permanently altered. The protein shield is now self-sustaining. You've become a bridge between our species. Jack sat up slowly, feeling strange but stronger than before. A bridge? What do you mean? Dr. Adams brought up a holographic display of his cellular structure. Your cells are now producing the protective protein continuously. More importantly, they're releasing it into the air around you. Like a bubble of immunity, Dawn added. Anyone near you is temporarily protected from our touch. You're creating a safe zone where humans and mists can interact. The implications hit Jack hard. That's why the extremists wanted to stop the research. They knew this was possible. They feared it, Dawn corrected. Both sides did. The idea that our species could truly coexist challenged everything they believed. The door opened, and Director Wells entered with several high-ranking officials from both species. Their faces and forms showed a mix of awe and concern. The attack on the facility has changed everything, Wells announced. Both governments have agreed that the research must continue. What happened to you proves that evolution itself supports cooperation between our species. Dr. Adams pulled up more data on the display. We've analyzed your family history more thoroughly. The radiation exposure that affected your ancestors. It didn't just create the protein by accident. It activated something that was already there, dormant in human DNA. Something that looks remarkably similar to mist energy patterns, Dawn added. As if your species evolved long ago to be compatible with ours, but the ability went dormant until now. Jack stood up, testing his strength. The tingling sensation had faded, replaced by a feeling of intense awareness. He could sense the mists in the room in a new way, understanding their energy patterns instinctively. The protein isn't just a shield, he realized. It's a translator. It lets human biology understand and interact with mist energy. Exactly, Dr. Adams confirmed. And now that we understand how it works, we can start developing ways to activate it in others. Not everyone will have your level of adaptation, but even a basic version would allow safe interaction between our species. Dawn's form brightened with excitement. My people have lived in isolation for so long, believing our touch could only bring death. Now we know that nature itself provided a way for us to connect with others. We just had to find the right species to help us unlock it. The officials began discussing plans for expanding the research, but Jack was only half listening. He walked to the window, looking out at the facility where humans and mists worked together. The extremists had failed. Their attack hadn't stopped progress. It had accelerated it. Do you understand what you've really done? Dawn asked, moving beside him. I think so, Jack replied. I proved that evolution doesn't just make species stronger or more dangerous. Sometimes it makes them more capable of connection. More than that, Dawn's form pulsed gently. You showed both our peoples that the universe isn't just about survival of the fittest. It's about survival of the most adaptable, the ones willing to change and grow together. Outside, the sun was setting, its light catching Dawn's misty form and creating a rainbow effect. Jack smiled, feeling the way his altered cells resonated with her energy. Evolution had given humanity a gift, not just immunity to the mist's touch, but the ability to bridge the gap between two very different forms of life. Now they just had to figure out how to share that gift with everyone else. 6 months after Jack's transformation, the Joint Earth-Mist facility had expanded into a sprawling research complex. Hundreds of scientists from both species worked together, studying the miracle that had begun with one human's unique adaptation. In the main testing chamber, Dr. Adams monitored the latest trial of the synthetic protein treatment. 2 volunteers, 1 human and 1 mist, prepared to attempt physical contact. Remember, Jack instructed from his observation post, the treatment creates a temporary effect. You'll have about 5 minutes of safe interaction. The human volunteer, a young researcher named Tom, stepped forward. The mist, a scientist called Light, moved closer. Years of ingrained fear made them both hesitate. "It's safe," Dawn assured them, her form glowing encouragingly beside Jack. "The treatment has been perfected through 50 successful trials." Tom reached out slowly. Light extended a misty tendril. When they touched, neither died. Instead, a soft blue glow emerged where their forms met. "It works," Tom whispered, tears in his eyes. "I can feel the energy, but it's beautiful." Light's form brightened with joy. After millennia of bringing only death, to create something beautiful instead, there are no words. Dr. Adams checked her readings. The protein shield is holding steady. All cellular structures remain stable. "This is our longest successful contact yet." Around the chamber, humans and mists alike celebrated. Some were crying, others pulsing with bright colors of joy. Centuries of isolation were ending, not through warfare or technology, but through understanding their own biology. Jack watched from above. Dawn's form intertwined comfortably with his altered energy field. His permanent adaptation had made him unique, the only human who could maintain constant contact with the mists. But the treatment they'd developed would allow everyone to experience temporary connection. "The first public announcement goes out tomorrow," Dawn said softly. "Both our governments have agreed it's time to share this with the world." "Are we ready?" Jack asked. There are still people on both sides who oppose this. The extremists have lost their power. Dr. Adams joined them, tablet in hand. "It's hard to argue against nature itself. The proof is in our DNA. Humans and mists were always meant to find each other." The chamber doors opened as Director Wells entered with a delegation of world leaders. They had come to witness the successful trial firsthand. "The treatment will be made available globally within the month," Wells announced. "Under proper medical supervision, of course. But soon, anyone who wishes to experience interaction between our species will have the chance." Dawn moved to address the gathering. "My people have lived as harbingers of death for so long, we forgot to hope for anything else. Humanity didn't just survive our touch. You helped us transform it into something new." Jack stepped forward, his altered cells creating a safe space around him, where humans and mists could mingle freely. "This isn't just about touch anymore. It's about proving that evolution itself supports cooperation over isolation, connection over fear." As if to demonstrate, Tom and Light were still in contact, their forms creating that beautiful blue glow where they met. The protein treatment had given them 5 precious minutes of connection, but those minutes would change their lives forever. "We're establishing training centers on every continent," Dr. Adams explained to the leaders. "Places where humans and mists can learn to interact safely using the treatment. It's not just about physical touch. It's about learning to understand each other completely." Jack looked around the chamber, remembering how it all began with an accidental touch that should have killed him. Now that same touch was bringing hope to 2 species that had never dreamed such connection was possible. "Ready for the next trial?" Dawn asked, her form brightening with anticipation. "Always," Jack replied, watching as more volunteers stepped forward, eager to experience this new connection between species. Above them, through the chamber's skylight, Earth's sun illuminated them all, humans and mists together, no longer separated by the barrier of deadly touch. They had discovered something greater than immunity or protection. They had discovered that sometimes the deadliest touch could become the greatest gift if you were brave enough to reach out and grasp it. The end.